um, put these on now for quite some time. So, Dr. Beck.
Hi, I'm Paul Beck. I'm also a state extension beef cattle specialist located at the campus of Oklahoma State University here in Stillwater. Proud that everybody's here to join us on this. I'm excited about the lineup of speakers and the different topics that we're going to cover on this series.
Thank you. The one thing I wanted to point out as we look at the schedule here is that we are not going to have a session on August 7th. We have another in-service program for our extension educators going on that day. And so just keep that in mind that we are going to skip August 7th. All right, so let me stop my share here and I'll just introduce Marty New quickly. Marty actually predates me, as I recall. I don't know how long you had been here when I arrived, Marty, but he has been a longtime area livestock specialist with responsibilities for the southwest corner of the state. And so Marty has a lot of experience, does a great job, as we've done this before on this series, interviewing producers. And so Reed, you're in good hands there. Marty,
I don't know
Halee,
about that.
we'll turn it over to you.
Okay. Thanks, Dave and Paul. First off, I'd like to thank Halee Salmon, our educator here in Jackson County, for all she does in the county and working with the producers here. Makes things enjoyable and easy on all of us. So with that, with us today is Reed Abernathy, and kind of give you a little agenda of what we're going to kind of discuss today. Let me open these slides here. Does that show up okay, Dave or Halee?
Yes.
Okay. So what we're kind of get into, if I can get this to advance. Maybe.
It tends to want to hesitate on the first slide, Marty, and then after that, usually it's quicker.
Okay, there we go. Kind of what our agenda and kind of what we're going to discuss is like the history and how Reed has adapted his current operation of Abernathy cattle over the years. And then we'll kind of shift gears and kind of go into their cow-calf operation, how they manage things here in Southwest Oklahoma and parts of North Texas as they drift into that area as well. As you can see from some of the pictures and stuff, we're going to get into, how he manages his herd, get into his genetics a little bit, his stocking rate, and how they manage for drought, particularly some of the issues we've had in the last 10, 15 years in Southwest Oklahoma. Just kind of give you an idea of some of the cows as we've been driving around, taking pictures of, kind of let you see their genetics and what he focuses in on his cow herd and his cow size, and kind of the status of their pastures, as we are here in Southwest Oklahoma. I will say, don't let some of these deceive you. We're as green in July in Southwest Oklahoma as we've been in probably 15, 20 years. Yeah. And actually, when we were doing some of this, it was raining on us and we were thinking we were going to get stuck, and that's not a thing we usually do in July. So then we're going to kind of shift gears and kind of talk about Reed has created and been at the forefront of starting a growing and receiving yard. The type of cattle he likes to feed out. I think he has a really unique perspective in how he manages it and the size of his traps and his paddocks and stuff, and I'll let him explain that as we go. What he looks for in cattle, his feeding regimen, and the technology that he uses to maintain and market and bring cattle in and ship cattle out, and how they utilize wheat pasture in their current operation as well. And then, obviously the source of water that we have, because sometimes in Southwest Oklahoma, water can cause us some issues as well. So that's kind of what we're gonna focus on as we go uh, forward today. So with that, I'll just kind of turn it over to Reed and let him kind of explain the history and your current operation that you have going now, Reed.
Yeah, man. So there's 6 generations. We started, both sides of the family started in the late 1800s, early 1900s, just a brief history. And there was one side that they were from Alabama and decided to move to North Texas. And I guess they got off, or my great grandmother got off the train and the wind was blowing, and I think it was 105, and she didn't know why they didn't just go back to Alabama. And then the other side of the family, he was a cattle buyer. I just right here in Olusty and sent a lot of cattle to Kansas City and Chicago and all over back in the mid 40s, 50s and that time. And then my granddad came along and he kind of took over both sides of the operation at that point in 1950. Primarily was a Hereford herd, which was kind of what they were back then. The mid 60s, we decided to go with the Angus cattle. And we started a seed stock operation, I'd say mid 70s. It just kind of grew into that. Sold bulls up until mid 2000s, maybe 2010, 11. I still have an uncle who still sells a few bulls. And then going back into the mid 80s, my dad started a yearling operation, just kind of as a way to make a living. I mean, back in the 80s, it was tough and, just trying to make something work. And he started a yearling operation, was very successful. We turned out a lot of wheat pasture cattle. And that's kind of what's grown into now. And that entire time, we were farming, probably started farming more in the mid 05, 06 or something like that. And now we run, a cow-calf operation that goes back to the same genetics from the 60s. We farm wheat and cotton and corn. We have a yearling operation, and we've got our grow yard. And then we also feed some cattle as well in the feed yard. So,
Okay.
So that's kind of us. That's how we are now. So,
Okay. Kind of what's brought you, you went through the TCU
yeah.
range and management program.
Yeah, man, that was awesome. So I went through that in 15, I guess, graduated in 16. That's a great program. You learn a lot down there. The professors are great. The contacts that you make afterward are great. I mean, I would suggest that for anybody that's really interested in ag in general. It's a great program. You get to understand, what's going on and how these bigger operations operate and what they utilize to be successful. So, yeah.
Okay, great. Okay, Reed, we'll kind of touch on your cow-calf side of things. How many mama cows do you like to, or what's a number you guys like to manage, and what do you look for in your current cow herd?
We run, between 500 and 600 head of cows, just depending on the grass and drought. And, we live down here in the Oklahoma desert, so it never rains. So, but, what was the second?
Oh, just kind of, what do you made the statement when we were driving around today, your stocking rate is kind of, you plan now that basically you're stocking with a drought in mind.
Yeah. So we definitely always stock for a drought, just so we don't have to sell our genetics, just because those are, family genetics that go back so long. So we always stock for a drought. I would say our stocking rate on the ranch in North Texas, it's probably going to be 1 to 16 to 18. On the ranch right here in Altus, I'd say we're 1 to 15. Which that's depending on if there's improved grass there, and if there is improved grass that's managed and sprayed and fertilized and fenced off, then I can usually bump my stocking rate. If it's 1 to 15 and we've got improved grass, maybe 1 to 18, 1 to 19.
in those pasture management situations, and even in your other native grass, what's some of your key management tools when you're trying to keep those cows, maintain those stocking rates, even with the limited moisture we have here in Southwest Oklahoma?
I mean, it's definitely hay. We do feed a lot of hay. I don't like to feed too much, but the one good thing with our operation is we do I farm wheat, and there's definitely some failed wheat down here, so we're able to utilize that. We also feed a DDG cube on the ranch in Texas. On the ranch right here in Altus, we try to mix our own feed, just a little more economical. But we'll try to stretch that as long as we can. Whenever we get into a drought, we start to cull, and we cull the oldest cows first, obviously, and then we're going to go in there and look for quality. And if there's some cattle in there that we just don't like because of some reason, then that's the first ones to go. But we definitely try to keep it at a manageable stocking rate, no matter what the situation is.
Yeah.
We try to adapt, I guess, would
Yeah.
be the.
But you made a statement to me that day is, if we're not in a drought in Southwest Oklahoma, we're going into one.
Yeah, that's right.
And that kind of stuck with me as you said that. What would you say is like your average cow size?
I would say they're probably 1,200-pound cows. There's probably some 1,300-pound cows in there, but I would say 1,200 would be our average.
Yeah. I was going to say, and I hope through some of the pictures in the slides, you guys could tell it's a very uniform set of cows, very well body condition. And you mentioned the importance of the genetics that you guys have built over the years, and that has an impact on your stocking rate as well.
Yeah, for sure.
And so you mentioned feeding hay and everything. Do you feel like that helps stretch your native pastures as well?
I definitely feel like it'll help stretch it. I mean, you got to think a cow's got to have 35 pounds of dry matter intake to maintain on NEM. So whenever you're feeding them hay, I don't know, rule of thumb, and this was something we went over in college, but rule of thumb was 1 bale per cow per year. Now, I don't know if that's accurate or not, but that's something that I do still use. And I mean, obviously, you're giving them roughage. I mean, that's got to stretch it out. And then you're, feeding a DDG cube or some kind of a higher, I don't know, like a grain or protein. And so it's going to, burn their belly, make them go out there, want to eat that dry grass and hay.
On the majority of like your pastures, do y'all try to rotate, or is it, I mean, I know you got cattle scattered a lot of miles. Do you kind of keep them where they're at, or?
Most of everything is just going to run the entire place. Now, we do have a few select pastures that we do just a simple rotation, and it's usually a fall, winter, or spring, summer. And I'm trying to get that wetter season on the front end of that so we can grow a little bit of grass to get them through the drier or the cold.
Kind of touch on what you look for. I thought it was really, really interesting visiting about it. Your bull power. We kind of had the one picture of the one bull, and you're real proud of him that day. We were looking at him, and what you see or what you look for in your bull selections, or what your goal is.
Well, and I'll be completely honest, my dad is the one who picks most of those bulls, and he's really good at looking at them, which we sold bulls for a long time.
Yeah.
But I mean, we're definitely looking at their size, and we're looking at the cattle themselves. I mean, I like to use I just went blank all the numbers on them.
EPDs.
Yes, we like using EPDs. I look at the carcass a lot too. So we do track so all of my raised calves, so we'll track them all the way through the feed yard, and then we'll kill those cattle, and we'll be able to track those back to the bull that they came out of. And we definitely use that a lot because we're able to go back in there and see what genetics are working with our genetics, what's making the best carcass. But then we definitely want a uniform cow and I'm keeping a lot of replacements out of these. So it's not all about the EPDs. And I feel like there's lots of guys who get so caught up on EPDs that they'll buy a cow or a bull that, looks like a Jersey and he's registered Angus, and I mean, you definitely got to look at the cattle themselves too. So yeah.
Good deal. So, and like you said, you follow those cattle through the yard when you do
Yes.
your ranch raised calves. So great deal. And you guys pretty much raise the majority of your replacement heifers or all of your replacements.
Yes. Yeah, we do probably 95% of them we raise.
Okay. Go back into the cow herd.
Yeah.
What would you say is your average cow age?
We just culled a bunch, just because it's been so dang high and it's been so dry, up until this year. I'd say right now we're probably sitting at that 5 or 6. Before we started culling 2 years ago, we were probably more like 8 or 9. But
do you see how they handle the drought? Can you see that in your?
I mean, definitely a
in the
younger cow's she's gonna do better in a drought. She's gonna stay fuller. She's gonna do better.
Oh, that's great. Well, I mean, you and I've worked together over many years, and it's been great to get to know your operation and how you guys run your cow calf operation. But the interesting thing is that I've noted, or in the last few months, is how you've grown and built your grower and receiving yard. How about you just touch on that and kind of how it come about and how you built it and what you look for or what y'all's goal is with your grow yard?
Yeah, so like I said before, in the mid-'80s, my dad started running, quite a few outside cattle. And that was working really good then. It seemed like we got rains when we needed them. We could get wheat pasture. And I graduated from TCU in 2016. And for the first 5 years that I was back, we bought cattle to go on wheat just to have an inventory of them. And we couldn't seem to grow any wheat pasture. It just would not, rain in September, October. So then I'm sitting there with an inventory of cattle and I'm having to send them to somebody else's grow yard or somebody else's feed yard. I'm paying upcharge and feed, yardage, all that kind of stuff. So in 2020, I somehow got my dad talked into doing this, but we decided to build this kind of more out of a necessity than a profit center, and it's turned into a profit center now. So we built our first row of pens. 22, we built the second row, and then we just built the third row this year. We still turn out quite a few head of wheat pasture cattle when we can, when the wheat's there. But I really like the grow yard. I really like feeding those cattle. It's definitely a job. It's 365 days a year, but it's a really neat experience to get to watch those cattle change and make that adjustment and see how they adapt to it. I guess it's just a challenge, and you wake up every day to a new challenge, and that's kind of what I thrive on, I guess.
Yeah. Kind of explain the way you've set up your traps that you utilize, in the receiving cattle. And I think that was pretty impressive, the way you kind of have that set up and how you manage your.
No, and I think it was 13. That's the year I graduated from high school. We went in there and split. We had 2 big traps and we split them all down. And most of my traps are 20 acres, and I can hold, one load of calves, 100 to 150 head in each trap. We try to turn them out there, keep them in there for 45 days, get the cattle straight, and then they're going to roll into a pen. And then we've also got some bigger traps that are utilized to stockpile cattle that might be going out on wheat that are already straight.
And some of those could be grass traps, wheat traps.
There's 2 that I just built it was a wheat field that I just split in half, and it's a wheat trap, I guess. Yeah. And we kind of use those on our first receivings, maybe to wean or something like that, just to get the cattle out there. They get on our feed, and then I might, 15 to 16 days or 20 days on the revac, then I can pull them back in, and then I'll move them into either a confined space pen or a trap.
Yeah. So it's I think you said about 6,000 head capacity.
We're about 4 to 5. Yeah.
4 to 5. Okay.
Yeah.
And buying cattle or bringing cattle in, what size are you kind of targeting, or what's your goal when you're purchasing or
it just
cattle?
depends. I would say 90% of the cattle I bring in are going to weigh between 400 and 600 pounds. It just depends on the market. Like right now, we're fixing to start buying probably the next few weeks, and I'm going to try to buy a 6 weight so that way I can roll them and get them out of there before I'm getting the wheat pasture cattle in. But it just depends on the market is the biggest deal.
And you receive steers and heifers.
Steers and heifers, yeah.
And really,
Yeah.
just the market will dictate kind of
Yeah.
what you're looking for.
Yeah, and most of my, a lot of my customers don't really want a heifer if they're going on wheat. So we try to stay with the steers on the wheat cattle, but there's some situations that
Right.
if they aren't going to be a profitable animal, then I'm not going to buy them. So
Explain your feeding operation, how you feed these cattle. I mean, it was very impressive in your management and your scale technology and everything, and
Yeah.
how you feed and your mixes, or what do you like? What's your goal of what's the type of feed you like to feed if it was
Yeah.
red weevil?
But yeah, so we started, like I said, back in 2020, and we tried to do it without any kind of technology, and it was pretty tough. So we started using a system called Performance Beef, and very good system. So it's kind of what it is you get a phone or an iPad, and then you get a certain scale head, and it'll Bluetooth onto it, and then it'll tell the guy that's actually doing the loading what to feed. So it'll tell him to feed, 5,000 pounds of silage. Okay. And then it counts it down. And then if he puts way too much in there, then it'll do an automatic adjustment of your ration cost. As far as the feed goes, we love feeding silage. I wouldn't do this without silage. I mean, I love feeding silage. I just feel like it just gives the feed the right moisture. I feed a lot of wheat silage. I like feeding wheat silage, and it's also usually pretty easy to find, or we can raise it ourselves. I feed a little bit of corn silage just to get the energy out of the corn. On most of our corn, we try to go to a full starch line just so we can get as much energy out of that chop as we can. We also feed a DDG, and we feed cracked corn. We'll feed some cottonseed. Right now, they've got it priced so far out that I'm not able to afford it. But anyways, that's the commodities that we feed. It's a high roughage diet. Now we're very high on the roughage. I don't remember the percentage. I believe it's 60% or so roughage, though. I mean, very high roughage. And then we do feed straw too as a scratch factor.
And you also measure your intake daily.
Yeah.
On all your pens.
Yeah. So we call bunks every night. So every evening.
Yeah. And you input that data into the program as well. And
Yeah.
it tells you your conversions and everything along that.
Yeah. So we can see all of our conversions. You can pull up a closeout and see, what the cattle do. And that'll actually keep that, pins or lot numbers data for like 10 years or something. So you're able to go in there and see like where the cattle came from and be able to make the sale barns compete as well. And we do that a bunch. So if we're buying them out of this sale barn or that sale barn.
Yeah, kind of explain a little bit of that, how you utilize the technology and managing your cattle from start to finish, or from time you receive them till you go out.
So all of our cattle will get a lot number. And that lot number goes back to either the sale barn that they came out of. It may be a buyer, because we may have more than one buyer in Oklahoma City. So, and then we'll also go back to like a certain ranch too, if we're buying cattle off of a ranch. And then I'm able to go back and track that all the way through and see, what their conversion was, what our pull rates were, what our first pull and our second pull and third pull rates are, and see what those cattle did and how they did. And then I can put that all into a spreadsheet in fact, the system actually has some stuff where you can go in there and it'll automatically do it. And you can go in there and see what cattle are doing the best. And I think the biggest deal that I've had to learn is not every calf is the same, and not every barn's the same. And if you can go in there and say, I can give $3 at this barn, but I know that the cattle out of this barn are usually straight. There's usually not a lot of trouble. They handle them really good. I can go back in my data and see that, they converted a 5.8 instead of a 6.7 or something, then I'm able to give a few more dollars. But then on these cattle, I'm probably going to back them up a little bit. So that's the way we
Yeah, no, exactly.
try to utilize it.
You also are incorporating your own calves into that as well.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. So we feed
your
those.
ranch raised calves.
Yeah.
And you feed them, and like you mentioned earlier, take them from start to finish and
Yeah.
collect all the carcass data on them. As far as Reed, I mean, like we always talk about here, water's our biggest issue. How did you set up your yard as far as your watering system?
Yeah. So we don't have any wells down here. So we're actually on county water, which is nuts. But it cost me about $9, $9 to $12 for a 90-day turn. So we were on a certain water system, I don't want to say the name, and they couldn't provide to us. So we actually ran one for 2 miles. Got it and got it, all tied in. So now we have 2 water systems that are running into the yards. We can switch them back and forth and do whatever we need to do there. So that way, because that's a big deal that I feel like lots of people don't think about, and I didn't until I did this. But you put those cattle in a confined pen, you control everything from every drop of water to every, drop of feed. Everything that they get is in your hands, and you can screw it up real fast. So.
Yeah. Well, we had a question in the chat from Brian. He wanted to ask if there's any health program or vaccine differences in the grow yard cattle versus your home raised cattle.
Yeah, there is. So on my received cattle or on my bought cattle, we give injectable IBR as well as a nasal. On the home raised cattle, I just give injectable just because they've already had their 2 rounds of shots. On the home raised cattle, if they're going directly into that yard, into that facility, I will mass treat. But if I do receive them at another, set of pens or something, I usually don't mass treat. So there's some small differences, yes.
Okay. Well, Reed, anything else you kind of want to touch on or explain?
What's it say?
Oh, another question. The typical management of your home raised calves,
Background 45 days after reading. Feed yard typical weights at different stages, finished weights. Yeah, so on our home raised calves, we do background those cattle. Usually 60 days after weaning. Most of the time, if I have wheat pasture, we'll sometimes put them on wheat pasture. Most of the time, those cattle go in the yard. The yard cattle, a lot of the times those yard cattle won't feed as well in the feed yard. So when I'm saying yard is my grow yard, cattle will not feed as well in the actual feed yard. But whenever I'm going to own them all the way through, I want as many days on feed as I can possibly get, just because, that's going to make my grade better. So lots of times those cattle are fed all the way through. Usually on the typical weights at different stages, I would say those cattle weaned are going to be 6 to 7 weights weaned. Finished weights, man, that's a that's a heck of a question there, because it's so different now. We just killed our steers last week, and they weighed 1575, and we usually don't. It's usually 1450. So it just depends on the market on that. So on the percentage choice and prime. So we actually got the data back this morning, and those cattle did 96% choice and 20% prime, and they yielded a 65. So I was very, very proud of those. But that goes back to feeding them to 1575,
Right. Yeah.
But I was very proud of that. And when we do feed Experior for the last 60 to 80, well, I think it's 60 days is all you can do it. So on all of our home raised stuff in the feed yard. And I think that's really been a big deal on our yield.
We just like to open it up to any questions, Dave, or anything else anyone would like to ask, or questions for Reed. And,
I think that's fascinating. So Reed, on average, how long will you background them? You said 60 days, right, of your home raised calves, and then they go to a finishing yard where they're I assume they're rapidly transition to a high concentrate diet.
Yeah, most of the time, I would say 60 to 90. I mean, it depends on the market. If
Yeah.
I can, if my cost of gain, because there's always a point there where it's cheaper to send them to the corn than it is to bring the corn to them.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I would say we try to ship those cattle out weighing 850 to 900. Most of the time, I can get a cheaper cost of gain in my yard getting to that weight.
Well, and then, I mean, that's interesting that your normal finish weight is 1450 with a 1200 pound cow, but now it's 1575. Dr. Beck can tell us all about this Experior product, but that is really seems to represent a major change in the cattle feeding industry in general. But so are you targeting higher growth, higher carcass weight, higher marbling bulls when you and your dad when you go buy bulls? Are you aiming for those?
We are definitely looking at them. I mean, that's definitely something that we're starting to take into consideration. It wasn't, we started feeding these cattle 6 years ago, and we weren't. I mean, I think the first set of cattle we sent through were like 78% choice and no primes, and it's the same cow genetics. All we've changed is the bulls, but we've definitely started looking at it more and more each year.
It'll be interesting over time to see as you head in that direction if your cows start getting bigger
Yeah.
or if you're able to kind of hold them where they're at. But that's pretty impressive, a 1,575 pound finished steer with a 1,200 pound cow.
And like we mentioned, the one picture of the bull there we were talking
Yeah.
about, kind of explain him to us and what why you're why he's kind of your favorite. And
Oh, I just really like that
yeah,
bull.
yeah.
I mean, I don't really know. I don't know his genetics. I'd have to look him up and
I
see.
mean, but he's as nice a herd bull
Yeah,
as
I
you can
really like
see.
that bull. Yeah.
And your bull power, how long do you keep a bull in your herd?
You know, we try to roll them through. I don't know. We try to cull bulls when they get 5, but I mean, I've probably got an 8-year-old bull somewhere. I mean, I mean, if they're really good, it's hard to cull them. But no, we try. We try to target that 5-year-old bull to kind of roll them out and get something fresh in.
Sure.
Yeah, so I've got tons of, team members or guys who help me. We've got a great team. So me and my dad, we operate together, and I couldn't do this without my dad. He's very knowledgeable, been doing this for a long time. I do have a nutritionist that I deal with. He's from Abilene, very, good nutritionist. He comes up, I'd say every 2 or 3 months. And we kind of go over everything. I've got a consulting vet that I deal with on a monthly basis. So we've got a very broad, spectrum of team members, including our employees. Now we have the best employees around, and it's hard to find the good ones, but I somehow have, and we've got some really good guys, and everybody, you know, cares and takes care of this like it's theirs. And I mean, at the end of the day, our main goal is to care for these cattle the best we can, and to bring the best product that we can to the consumer. So
Yeah, and I mean, you also have a spray operation
yeah,
with kids
well,
on a spray rig this
yeah,
morning. So
we have a farming operation.
yeah, I mean, so I mean, you kind of touched on it briefly, but I mean, you guys have been in the farming deal and raise a lot of wheat pasture. Um, like we were talking earlier, when do you guys plan on start sowing wheat for grazing for
Well,
cattle? And
every year we say that, I mean, we're going to start on September 10th to 15th, no matter what. And we usually don't. It's usually the 20th or something. But that's whenever we kind of target to start. Always start the stuff that I know I'm going to graze out first and kind of get across it, and then we'll kind of maybe stop for a week or so, and start back on some wheat for grain.
yeah. And you mentioned you guys try to graze out what 25% of your wheat
Yeah,
crop.
yeah,
But you also put a lot of cattle on gain
yeah,
as well. So throughout Southwest Oklahoma and North
yeah,
Texas, you got cattle scattered kind of everywhere.
yeah. We try to.
Yeah. So um,
Reed, how does your farming operation complement your cow herd? You mentioned every once in a while you'll have failed wheat that you bale, but how else? I mean, are you able to graze crop residue occasionally? How else do those two enterprises complement one another?
So we don't graze a lot of crop residue. Now we do raise all of our forage. So all of our wheat straw that is fed in the yard, is ours. All of our silages are ours that we grow ourselves. We're trying to grow a little bit of corn. We'll see how that works in Southwest Oklahoma, but and we do pretty much raise all of our own hay. I don't know the last time that we actually bought hay. We try to raise all our own hay. Yeah,
that hay, you're looking at weed hay, grass hay.
yeah, it's mainly weed
Kinda-
hay, and we don't
Don't
bale
cut
a
much
lot of
back
grass. We do bale some. I mean, I say that, and we've got some that I'm probably going to lay down next week. But I mean, most of the time, it's all going to be mostly weed hay, I guess.
Yeah.
Reed, one of the things you talked about when we were driving around, you talked about you always make sure you have a year to 2 years of hay. And I think that that's something in Southwest Oklahoma we have to do, where compared to other parts of the state, we necessarily don't. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, yeah. So we try to just get a year ahead. I mean, I know roughly what I'm going to feed every year, so we just try to keep you know, I'm always going to feed our 2-year-old hay, I guess, is what I'm trying to get at. So we're always, I'm just wanting to keep enough hay on hand that if there is a drought or something is to go, bad, that I'm able to get through it and able to think about it and figure out what we need to do, instead of just all of a sudden I'm out of hay and you're making rash decisions and you're selling cows and I mean, I feel like there's a lot of producers that have done that, and regretted it. So
How do you manage, we talked about the water source for your yard, but like on your cows, we've had a lot of dry stock tanks, and
Yeah.
ponds the last few years. How do you, I mean, I know you showed us some areas that, you guys have done a lot of work for water, and
yeah.
kind of go into how that's impacted you guys.
Yeah, so we're pretty lucky in the ranch here in Altus. We've got pretty much county water on most all of it, but the ranch in North Texas, I don't have one county water tap. So we try to build as many ponds as we possibly can in the right ways. We try to keep them cleaned out. And we do have a lot of solar wells in Quanah as well. But I mean, the main deal is just if you're in a drought, which is never a good thing, but go and clean your ponds out.
Right.
So, I mean, I know it's going to cost some money and you're in a drought. It's a tough time to do it, but that's the time that, it needs to be done, and utilize that as an opportunity.
Yes.
Reed, have you ever had to use or anticipate maybe using your pens at your yard to kind of limit feed some cows to get through a tough period?
No, and we've talked about it, and I've actually got a neighbor who tried that, and he tried to calve out some cows in there, and it just didn't work. There's just so much disease in those pens. It's so hard on those cattle. I mean, I could see stretching some cattle along for maybe 60 or 80 days in the dry period, but I definitely wouldn't want to try to calve anything out in some pens.
Yeah.
It can be done, but it's difficult. We, as Marty will know, and Dr. Beck knows, we've done a lot of work with limit feeding cows in dry lot pens as sort of an alternative enterprise, and it works really well. You can suck way down on the amount those cattle consume and save some money that way. But, obviously it is not for everyone. I mean, it is intensive. I mean, you have to manage it just like you do your yearlings, and maybe even a little more difficult, because it takes a specialized ration and so on and so forth. not for everyone, but we can make it work to hold, as you say, dry cows is a lot simpler to make that system work. Very good. Dr. Beck, did you have?
Yes,
comments or
read the
questions?
extremely, very interesting. I really enjoyed hearing about your operation. Would you, on your hay feeding, is it a timed event that no matter what, we're going to start feeding December 15th, January, or if in a year like this where you're not stocked very tight, as you say, stocked for a drought, but we've got a lot of rain, are you going to try to graze that residual forage later into the year and then just save the hay for another day?
I wouldn't say it's timed. I mean, we're, in those pastures a bunch. We're watching our grass conditions. I would say usually by December 15th, we're for sure feeding hay. But definitely on a year like this, I'm going to try to stretch it as long as I can. But then again, I don't want to bite it off either and not feed that hay. I mean, I want to stretch that grass as long as I can and stretch that, dry standing forage as long as you can.
But
If
not, but having the pasture in mind to help.
Yeah,
where
definitely.
You're not doing damage to your.
Yeah, because we can do some damage pretty quick down here, and it takes a long time to get it back.
Is all spring calving or spring and fall?
Oh, I knew you were going to ask that. So we actually, and I don't even want to say this, but we do not pull bulls. And I didn't want to get into this, but so we have not pulled bulls in a long time. And me and my dad have had some knockdown dragouts about this, but it works, and it works pretty well with my scenario because I've got that yard, so I can pretty much take those cattle anytime. We do have, like, the stuff in Quanah, we have kind of started to pull bulls and try to get everything straightened back up. But that's probably not the best thing to do, but that is that's the way that we've been doing it a long time. So
And you said you
My next-
pull twice a year.
Read
Yeah.
a follow-up on that. Do you keep track of when they calve, or and
yes,
what percentage in this year-round breeding actually fall into a spring or a fall? Because I've
I
kind
would
of got
say
some theories, but
yeah, we're probably 70% spring, 30% fall. And most of the time I'm trying right now, and I've done a lot of replacing in Quanah, so I'm trying to keep those cows straight and pull bulls. But our calving percentage, which it's hard to really say, but I usually do spring, fall, and then we start over spring, fall. And our calving percentage is going to be, depending on the year and the drought conditions, it's going to be 85 to, I think we've had a 95 or 96 before, but most of the time it's going to be that 85 to 90. And that's probably not the most efficient, but I still feel like it's good enough that, we can live with it.
yeah, I've always thought that in a lot of our herds, when we keep the bull out there, they'll naturally tend toward the most sustainable calving period, just
Yeah.
naturally due to the forage, the way it works.
Yeah.
Very good. Well,
Do we want to
Any
open it up
other-
for questions from everyone else, or
yeah, absolutely.
if anybody has questions, they can feel free to enter it into the chat, or there was a Q&A deal. They must have updated this. There's no longer the Q&A tab on the bottom. So enter it in the chat if you have other questions.
Oh, I just remembered one other thing I was gonna ask Reed. So with that calving, kind of maybe a wider calving window or wide calving window, how much do you wind up supplementing? You said you use the distiller's cubes. Would you mind telling us about how many pounds of cubes you average per day through the winter time, along with the supplemental hay?
Yeah. You're gonna make me do some math now. We try to feed 6 pounds a head a day, 6 to 8, depending on the pasture conditions. Usually 3 times a week, so 24 to 25 pounds, depending. And then, of course, if we get into a hard winter spell or something, we're gonna up that. And then on the ranch there in Altus, we do mixed feed for our cows there. And we feed, I try to, depending on the time of year, I try to give them that 30 to 35 pounds of dry matter intake.
Okay, so that includes the hay, obviously, then.
Yes.
But
So on the cube,
so-
you're right. No, 3 to 4 pounds a day.
Yeah.
Average.
Yeah.
Yeah. And those are the 30% distillers.
Yes.
Okay. Do you like that product? Have you gotten along pretty well with it, you think?
I really like the DDG cube. I think it's been one of the best things ever made. I mean, I really like the DDG cube. The high fat is what I really think makes a big difference in those cattle, especially in the winter months.
All right.
So we have a question from Doug Galloway that he attends these meetings religiously, it seems, but in that calving period, what months do you feel in the spring and in the fall do those calves predominantly hit?
In the spring, I would say we're gonna start January 1 and we're gonna calve January, February, March. Most of it seems like, and it's like you said in the naturally, it seems like most of those cows are done calving by March 15th for sure. We're pretty much done. I'm not saying you're not gonna have a straggler or two. In the fall, I would say those cows are probably calving August, September, October, somewhere in there. I don't really pay as much attention to those just because it's less in my herd and that's usually when I'm farming. So, silage type.
Yeah.
So we feed corn and wheat, primarily wheat, just because it's easy to get. I like using corn as well. We can get a little bit of energy and supplement a little bit of our corn cost with the corn silage. Nutrient analyst. Yeah, it's going to be a 50 NEG is what we try on our grow ration. We also run a 55 NEG on a finisher ration, and then I have a fat ration is what I call it, and it's kind of it's a higher corn diet, and it's a 60 NEG. I did look at my protein as a 12.5 on my finisher, but we don't ever look at our protein. I mean, I didn't even know what our protein was until I looked it up last night, but I knew I would get that.
Yeah, we were talking about that earlier.
Yeah. But I look at the net energy on everything. And I didn't until we started, feeding cattle, and my nutritionist just kind of trained me to do that. So
Reed, where do you ship your finished cattle to then if you feed them right there at the house? I'm sorry, I was under the assumption that when you said you finish them, you ship them to a commercial finishing yard, but it sounds like you finish your own cattle.
no. We will ship those cattle away at 900, and I
Okay.
retain ownership on probably 30 to 40% of my bought cattle and then all of my home raised cattle. The
Okay,
bought cattle, it just depends on the cattle. I mean, if they've got a touch more ear to them, maybe not as good a quality calf, they're probably going to go to the panhandle. Just a better grid out there for that kind of calf. The sure enough good cattle number ones are going to go to Kansas. We like to feed in western Kansas. I do feed all of my our raised calves are fed in northeast Kansas at Tiffany Cattle, and I've been working with them for a while. Really like Shane and Sean, good guys to I deal with. They give you all your data back. They're very good at telling you what they think you need to do. I would really suggest them if anybody's looking for somewhere to send some cattle.
Got another question. Do you see a difference in end carcass quality between cattle that stay in the pens in the dry lot and get shipped to the feedlot versus cattle that go through wheat pasture and then shipped to the feedlot?
Definitely see a big difference. The cattle that are in the yard, in the grow yard, they're definitely not going to perform as well in the feed yard. and I hate to even say that because I'm trying to sell these cattle to these feed yards, but they're not going to do as well in the feed yard. But usually their quality grade is going to be better just because of days on feed. But they're probably not going to yield as great. They might, but they're probably not going to yield as great as one off of grass wood because you don't get the compensatory gain, that first jump when they get there. It's just going to be it'll be a better conversion. It'll be a better cost of gain on the wheat pasture cattle. But in the end, I would rather feed one out of my grow yard. And I really don't like feeding wheat pasture cattle. I think we as an industry, we get them way too butterball fat on wheat, and then we send them to the feed yard and they melt off, 4 or 5% before we get them back rolling. But that's just a personal opinion. I don't have any data to back that, but.
Then one last question, another question from audience. Hay allotment is one bale per cow per year. Is that 1,000-pound bale or what size?
Most of our hay's is probably 1,600 pounds or 1,500-pound bales, I'm just doing that off a rule of thumb. That was something in TCU. That was something that was said is one bale per head per year, and that's just I wouldn't live by that, but it's a good rule of thumb to start with. And you guys know way more. Is that what you guys have gone off of or heard, or?
Well, to me, that all very much depends on how many days you're feeding hay.
Yeah.
Many of our producers are stocked quite a bit heavier than you are. So their hay feeding may start around Thanksgiving and go through March. So, we're looking at about 3 bales, on that type of situation. I think that one bale is a really good fit for somebody that's trying to graze as much as he possibly can, is what my opinion would be. Dave, do you?
Yeah. Interesting. I had a friend text me today. He's in Central Texas, and I said, "What's it like down there?" He said they've got more hay this year than they know what to do with, and people are offering round bales of hay for $35 a bale. I said, "Well, you better buy all you can." And in a year like that, you could probably increase your stocking rate pretty substantially with inexpensive hay. But yeah, I think that's the way, Dr. Beck, a lot of people, honestly, when you get right down to it, we don't promote increased hay feeding, but when you have inexpensive hay available, I don't know what it costs around the rest of the state, but cost me $35 a bale to get my hay baled this year. So the value of the hay itself is obviously beyond that. So if you can buy hay for $40 or even $50 a bale, especially the size that Reed's talking about, you're adding nutrients to your property, and if you can spread those nutrients around, so on and so forth, like we've talked about here before on this program, you're building up nutrients and increasing your stocking rate. So yeah, it very much depends on your goal and your situation. We do have a lot of people that have a tax problem every year that don't feed a drop of hay. We've got some, they just manage a grazing system where they absolutely do not feed hay, will not feed hay. I have one friend that says hay's for horses, and that's he's been doing it that way for 40 years. So, hey, Marty, thanks. This has been really good. I appreciate Reed's time so much. And Halee, we kind of left you out. Do you have any comments or thoughts before we sign off?
I think she had to leave, Dave.
Okay, that's right. She is working elsewhere today.
Yeah.
Paul, anything else?
No, I'm done. Thank you very much, Reed.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me on here.
This is good. Well, hey, I hope everyone will plan on joining us next week. We've got Brian Frecking is our livestock specialist, and he has been working with David Pickle, and Leanna Jones is the extension educator there. They've been working with David Pickle for a long time, and I know David has, much like Reed, a very interesting production system there. And at the other corner of the state, southeast Oklahoma, you're going to enjoy his presentation. And also Dr. Laura Goodman is going to join us and talk about approaches to change grazing distribution and forage quality in native pastures. So hope you'll join us for that. We'll see you next week. Thanks, everyone. This has been a good session.
It looks like we got recording. I had to keep requesting